Hey guys. I kind of got hit recently, and just before recording this, to be completely honest, with just this sort of wave of thoughts and emotions, right? There's a lot of talk and a lot of quote-unquote controversy about men's mental health and stuff going on right now in the world, and one of the best ways to discuss it or go over it instead of getting mad at people who dismiss it is instead sharing stories and talking about experiences, right? Going over it. Because if we all share our experiences, the things we've been through, and the people around us support us, it can help take some of the weight off our shoulders. And sometimes even just talking about it and getting it out is really healthy and positive, because when you just bottle everything up and you let it mount and mount and mount, it's very easy to become jaded or spiteful or angry or even hateful towards other people, towards yourself, towards the things and people that you love. It's very easy for those things to sort of control you and take you over when you don't handle stuff properly. Mental health is a very serious thing. And I just figured I'd give my experience. Because, why not, If anyone could identify with what I've been through and with my personal flaws, my personal experiences, and it helps them feel like they're not alone, then it's worth it. So, let's do it. Obviously, I go by Weebsource here on the channel, and on my other social media stuff as well, on Twitter and Twitch and such. But my name's Nate. I have always been the type of person that preaches what I struggle to do myself, if that makes sense. I have anger issues personally. I have moments of frustration and anger that I take out on myself, oftentimes. And I wish I didn't. And I'd like to think that I'm getting better. I feel like I am, but it's easy to relapse at certain times. One of my ways of coping at certain times has been marijuana. And the reason I think it helps me sometimes is my autism, right? Now, I'm not a perfect person in any regard. I actually think I'm one of the more flawed people out there. I think that, all things considered, I'm on a lower stratum. But it'd be ignorant and foolish of me to think that and yet be content with it. And that's why I want to be better. It's why I want to inspire others to try and overcome their problems as well, so they don't fall into the same pitfalls that I have in my life. And let's get to the crux of it, right? So, when I was in school, when I was very young, there was a stretch of period where I was both very social and very antisocial. Whenever I would interact with others, I would be the kid that climbs to the top of the playground, the kid that does the crazy stuff. An attention seeker, essentially. It was a very unhealthy way of portraying myself, portraying my desires and wants. It was a very easy way to be looked down upon, and I deserved it. And upon my having to move away, I obviously lost all that I had built at that point when I was at a very young age. And even though it hurt and it was a rough experience, I think that was a good thing in the long run, because it was only due to my moving and my losing what I did have that I found what I have today. And there were a lot of negative experiences that came with that as well. Don't get me wrong. There were. Heartbreak, getting betrayed, being sexually taken advantage of to a degree. Like, there are a number of things that I've gone through which typically you'd wish you wouldn't have to, or you'd wish others to not go through just off of principle, but that's life. Shit happens, and you learn from it, and it hopefully makes you a better person instead of making you into this compilation of grief and hate that turns you into this spiteful, shitty fucking person. Once I hit high school, after my move, I met some of my favorite people in the world. You guys would know them at all if you ever heard the term from me, mixed basket, which is this group of diverse friends which are just a bunch of assholes to each other, and they're family to me. People that, despite my best wishes, are down on their luck at times just like I am. That I wish could be happier. And as we're getting older, and we're still all talking to each other, thank God, there are signs that things are improving, even with the world and the state of sort of disarray that it's in right now. Point is, you're gonna go through a lot of hardship, but you're also gonna meet very important and good people that'll help you know that it's worth it in the end. Another aspect is family. One of the big rampant problems that I've been seeing in this day and age nowadays is just how many kids end up leaving their parents. And I don't mean in the traditional fly out of the nest and form your own family kind of sense. I mean in the they feel ostracized and hated by their parents, and so they leave them. And there are a lot of cases with abuse and stuff where those are very realistic and very appropriate measures to protect oneself, to live for oneself and not self-sacrifice just to stay with blood relatives. I understand that and I agree with it. I mean, I myself did the same. I had a moment with my mother where I felt hurt and betrayed and like my faith in her had been shattered, but you gotta be better than that. You gotta... Sometimes you need to get out of your own head, right? Especially when you're a kid, especially when you're younger. You're a lot more naive, you're a lot more impulsive, you're a lot more ignorant of the reality of things, of just how alone you can be when you forgo those relationships. And there's a lot of importance, I think, to having the wherewithal to withstand certain amounts of pressure or certain negativities in order to maintain relationships, because let's be honest, if you're a gay person or you're a trans person and your parents disapprove of your sexuality or your personal belief, right? I understand that hurts you. It feels like an ideological attack. It feels like a denial of your existence by someone that you loved. Get over yourself. Get over yourself. Just like the rest of us have to. Some of us have interests. Some of us have lifelong passions. Some of us have things that we love and we want to do, and our parents disapprove of them too. Everyone has it. There are some people who are very lucky to have supportive families that support everything they do. But the normal person doesn't. The normal person has a family that will tell them they are going down the wrong path, even if they're passionate about what they're doing. They have a family that will critique them and tell them that, maybe even to the extent that they're being stupid. But it's normal. Your parents are gonna be stupid, and they're gonna be ignorant too, because they're human, just like you are. That moment where you're about to leave them and you're about to abandon that relationship is a moment of fight or flight. It's a moment of fear and pain and betrayal overtaking you and making you feel like you have no other choice in the world. And it's real. I'm not saying it isn't. It's a very valid emotional response. It's very, very real. But it's also very childish. I'll give my own experience with my grandmother, just for some retrospective. After I graduated high school, I had a specific goal in mind. I had a plan. I had aspirations, and I wanted to pursue them. But my grandfather had come down with Alzheimer's, right? And he was already well into the first or second stage of Alzheimer's by the time I had started living with him and my grandmother in order to sort of become a live-in caretaker to help him out, or help her with him, is a better way to put it. And that was my life until God, I don't think or talk about it much. I think it was about midway, 3/4 into 2021 when he passed away. And that was a moment that really shook me, because my entire life leading up to that point, he had seemed invincible. He was an incredible man, incredibly talented, incredibly knowledgeable, incredibly capable. Not only was he brilliant mechanically with the way that he worked on motorcycles and the things that he accomplished working at Pratt and Whitney on airplanes and such, but he had a real wealth of wisdom to him. And seeing someone of that nature decline into a state that's only comparable to that of a child, with inability to feed himself, difficulty getting to his feet on his own, oftentimes had to be comforted into going to bed because he wouldn't be able to fall asleep on his own. There were a lot of sacrifices there, like having to sacrifice having my own room, having my own privacy, my own space, because I had to sleep in the same room as him to always be ready if anything happened. I had to sacrifice getting a job and spending time with my friends and all that. And a big aspect of that built onto it was COVID, because COVID was going on at that time with the lockdown, especially in full force. So one of the big things, especially then, was that to protect his health, because he was already so declined with his immune system, I pretty much sacrificed 2 to 3 years of my life to take care of him. And do I regret it? No. I don't. So don't get the wrong message there, okay? I don't regret it. But do I wish things could have been different? Also, yes. I wish that things could have been better, and that I wouldn't have had to sacrifice so much to support him and my grandmother. But that's life for you. You oftentimes don't have a choice. You need to just buckle up and do it if it's the right thing. You need to get the fuck over it and just do it. And after my grandfather passed away, and it shook my worldview and like my view on the mortality of life and stuff, there was this very intense fear in me that would make me almost every night check on my grandmother when she was sleeping to see if she was still breathing, because he passed away in his sleep while I was asleep. And that fear controlled me for a good while. It drove me to feel like she was this incredibly fragile thing, when she too felt almost invincible for most of my life. And that was the way things were for a good couple months. And then a decline started happening. My grandmother began being very irritable, argumentative, right? Not in the same sense as Alzheimer's, I don't believe so, but the kind of thing where the simplest of conversations could devolve into an argument. And with my growing frustration with my living situation and my giving away my years of life to help only to be disrespected and treated very unfairly and emotionally poorly, it turned into a situation where we would argue a lot. And we still do at times. And I'm hoping that things are getting a little better currently, because it somewhat feels like they are for the first time in years, but that's sort of why I'm making this video, to talk to you guys and hopefully level with anyone that's going through a similar situation as me, as well as just make an active log of where my head is at, so that in the future, a couple years down the line, when hopefully I'm in a better situation, I can reflect a bit. Because she isn't the sole bad actor. I've had my bad moments. That's being human, right? But back to the point. We've had this problem for the last couple years now. And unfortunately, her sister had also died. And that I feel, is where it put her in a situation of a downward spiral. She denies her pain and her using certain things like the internet in order to escape from her emotions, because she's very old school in how she shuts down her own emotions and stuff instead of feeling them, instead of talking about them. So it makes her a very closed off person a lot of the time, and it makes it hard to talk to her honestly and emotionally, and hopefully to absolve some of her inner stuff. And I think that's one of the biggest things that drives a lot of her and my lack of communication, right? I find myself at a precipice, and I've talked about this a couple times and had it on certain posts. I'm in a situation where I am on the precipice of leaving this house, leaving my grandmother, and I hopefully have a better future lined up for me and where I'm going. And I've had a lot of moments where I have wanted nothing more than to never talk to her again. I really have. And I'm not saying that those moments weren't justified, and I'm not trying to tell myself that I was wrong in feeling that way, because I wasn't. She's done a lot for me, but she's also done a lot to hurt me. And there's a degree of emotional maturity that I think you kind of develop through a situation like this, where you need to accept that sometimes people act a certain way because they don't know any better. And it hurts. It hurts to say that, because when I was younger, she was the kind of person that I would get home from school and I would be the most excited to see her, to the point that I almost neglected my mother, I want to say. And the way that things have changed since then are very hard to reconcile sometimes. You know what I mean? It's hard to come to terms with just how much stuff changes, but that's life, and you need to accept that. Circumstances are never going to stay the same, and you're going to have hard times. They're going to feel unfair a lot of the time, too. But it's how you react to those unfair times, and it's how you carry yourself going forward that really defines you as a person. If you let your life be overtaken and controlled by the negative things that you go through, and you don't use them as a reason to do better and be better, then you are part of the problem. And that's why, for many of us, I think in the modern day, there is a large degree of self-hatred going on, at least in America. First world problems, am I right? That's why suicide rates are so high currently, and why it's a genuine issue. Other than the cultural shift stuff, of course. But you can't use your hardships as a reason to hate the world and take it out on the world and other people. You can't. And I know for those of you that suffer from anger issues similar to me, it's not that easy sometimes. You can tell yourself these things and know them and understand them. And when you try and do certain things like therapy, and the therapist shows no actual inherent want to help you and instead is just there to get your money, treat you poorly, and essentially shit talk you to your face. I know some people will say, well, you just got a bad therapist, and to a degree, I'm sure you're right. There are probably therapists out there with good intentions that want the best for you, but anyone that's being paid to help you, there's already an inherent degree of disconnect there. And that's an honest belief that I have. I think some therapists can have good intentions, but it's the people in your life that will be there for you and listen to you and give you advice when you need it. Even the advice that leads to being told to your face that you're a shitty person and that you need to do better. The people that will hold you accountable, the people that will tell you you need to be better, those are the most valuable people in your life because they care enough to call you out. They're not doing it out of hate. They're not doing it because they're doing it because they want to see you thrive. They want to see you at your best. They want to see you happy. They want to see you living your best life as the best person you can be. And it's so easy to fall into the logical fallacy of these people won't accept me for who I am. It's so easy to fall into the logical fallacy of I'm not good enough. You need to be better. You need to have the wherewithal to actually hear what they're saying instead of hear what you perceive them saying. We have to be better. We have to want better. We have to put in the effort to be better. And we have to hold the people around us to that same level of accountability. We need to. You can't fight hate with hate. You can only fight hatred with love. And I know that sounds cliche, cheesy, gay, whatever you want to call it. Know that it's never too late to start over is one of the big messages that I want to send out with this video. Know that you are enough. Your effort is enough. As long as you keep doing what you think is right and keep actively trying to improve, that is enough. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. You are doing the best that you can as long as you're actually putting forth the effort. If you're depressed and it's hard for you to get out of bed in the morning, Get out of bed. Make sure you drink enough water. Make yourself food. Keep living. I know it's hard, but every day that passes, I promise it'll get a little bit easier. As long as you keep taking care of yourself and keep wanting better for yourself, you will find a point where you will overcome that hurdle. It just takes time, and I know it hurts, and I know it's scary to not know when that day will come that you will get over it, but you will. And you just need to have faith in yourself. Have faith that you are enough. I'm sorry that I have a lot of moments where the best way to call it is choke up. I don't get to talk about this kind of stuff much in my life. Because, like I said, my grandmother, who I live with currently and I have for the past 5 years, is a very closed off person emotionally, just because of it being a product of the time that she grew up in. Anytime I will come to her emotionally wanting to speak on things, it'll be treated as if it's a nuisance. Like I'm wasting her time talking about emotions instead of more important things. And to a degree, she's not wrong. It is a waste of time. But if that waste of time is what allows you to be able to move on to the next day, wake up that next morning, then it's worth it. And that's the difference. I see using that time to provide that sort of emotional security as worth it, instead of being a waste of time. And I wish you would see it the same. But sometimes you just have to accept that it's not plausible. You have to accept that people are different from you, and that they won't understand where you're coming from, or that they won't give the same things that you do the same weight you do. And once you can accept that, you can start valuing yourself and your own perspective a bit more. Because you've already reconciled that it's okay for them to do it. So it should be okay for you too as well. You just can't go too far with it. You need to check your ego. You need to check yourself. You need to hold yourself accountable. You need to accept responsibility of the bad things you do. Is it naive of me to want a world where everyone can get along like it was in the 2000s? Is it wrong of me to want the wars to end, for killing and violence and hatred between different political parties to end? Is it wrong for me to want men and women to get along again, instead of having this veiled hatred between ourselves? This mindset of all women are whores and all men are abusers that's taken over culture so heavily. Am I wrong for wanting those things to find a solution and get better? I don't think I am. Maybe I'm naive for it. I don't know. But all I can do on this tiny channel is preach about the kind of future that I want. A world that I'll feel safe bringing my kids into. A world where I'll feel like I won't have to worry about the people that I love, because I can trust the normal, everyday person to treat them well. For nothing other than the fact that they're human. They're another person alongside them. I'm not naive for wanting that. I'm not stupid for wanting a world where everyone can have mutual respect and love for each other for nothing other than the fact that each of our lives matter. Just means I have hope. It just means that despite everything, I still have some faith that humanity is capable of good. And I'm not stupid for that. I'm not. I might feel it. I might feel naive, ignorant, stupid. I might, but I'm not. And I'm gonna keep telling myself that every single day. And I'm gonna keep telling you guys to want for better. And God forbid someone stumble across my channel and see this video and they relate to my experiences in any way, and they hear my message and it can resonate with them, then that's enough. My life will have had meaning because I touched someone. I don't need to be famous. I don't need to be rich. Having love in my life already makes me rich. Wanting for better in my life already makes me rich. And everything else that I get on top of that is just a bonus. And I want all of you to feel that same exact way. Because that is how we promote positivity in this world. That's how we promote supporting each other and pushing each other to be better. So, never, ever let anyone put you down for wanting better out of people in the world. Never let anyone put you down. Because the only way this all works is when we band together. The world wasn't built by a single person. Society and culture were not built by a single person. They were built by all of us. And just because we live in the internet age, and just because commodities have become just that, commodities, and they're no longer things that everyone has to work just as hard to create, does not make them less valuable. We need to appreciate where the things that we use came from. We need to appreciate the people that built the very foundation of the world that we live in. We need to appreciate where we came from. And once we can start doing that a bit more, maybe we'll start having respect for each other again. I know it's easy to get black-pilled, especially for those of us that are on the internet all day and they just see negativity constantly. Look at the black-pilling instead of a reason to give up as a reason to fight for better. Because if those people out there that have made you give up on humanity and give up on the world as a whole, if those people out there have made you feel that way, be the fucking change. Promote positivity and love. Don't let them win. Fight for better. I know this was a bit of a heavy video, guys, but I think that this is the kind of stuff that we need to be talking about. We need to be talking about our experiences and sharing them, because commonalities are the way for us to come together. I love you guys. Take care out there, and remember, you deserve happiness and you deserve love in your life. Never think otherwise. Nate out.